6 missed calls from Mom, 4 from Dad, 3 from my sister Rachel, 2 from my brother Mark, 1 voicemail that started with sobbing. They're all looking for me now, but where was this desperation when I was their personal ATM for 20 years? If you are watching this, kindly subscribe and let me know where you are watching from, and I hope that you're safe wherever you are. My name is Sarah Martinez. I'm 34 years old, and until 3 months ago, I was the family cash cow, the responsible one, the sister who never said no. I built my accounting firm from nothing. 12-hour days, weekend clients, sacrificed relationships and vacations, all so my family could live comfortably while I funded their dreams, their emergencies, their wants disguised as needs. Rachel, my 28-year-old sister, had always been the golden child, the artist, the free spirit who didn't understand money, but understood exactly how to spend mine. Over the years, I'd given her $43,000, art supplies, rent, car repairs. That time she needed $5,000 for a pottery kiln she used twice. But her latest request wasn't a request at all. It was a demand wrapped in emotional manipulation. "Sarah, I need $50,000, she announced over dinner at Mom's house, her voice carrying that familiar entitled tone. I found the perfect studio space downtown. This is my chance to finally make it as a real artist. I set down my fork carefully. "Rachel, that's a lot of money. It's an investment in my future," she snapped. "You make 6 figures. What's 50,000 to you? What's 50,000? It was my emergency fund, my security, my peace of mind. After growing up watching our parents struggle paycheck to paycheck, Mom cleared her throat. "Sarah, honey, family helps family. You know Rachel has talent." Dad nodded. "We've always supported each other in this family. Always supported each other." When had they supported me? When I worked 3 jobs through college while Rachel partied on their dime. When I paid for Mom's surgery while Rachel took a spontaneous trip to Europe. "I need to think about it," I said quietly. Rachel's eyes flashed. "Think about what? Whether your sister's dreams matter to you." The silence stretched. 3 generations of Martinez women staring at me, waiting for my wallet to open like it always did. But something had shifted. Maybe it was turning 34 and realizing I'd never lived for myself. Maybe it was watching Rachel's contemptuous smirk, like my hesitation was personally offensive. "I said I need to think about it," I repeated, standing up. "Don't you dare walk away from this conversation," Rachel hissed. "I've already told the landlord I'm taking the space. The deposit is due Monday." That's when I realized the depth of her arrogance. She'd committed my money before even asking for it. The following Sunday, they staged an intervention. I walked into Mom's living room to find them all waiting. Rachel sat in the center like a queen holding court. Mom and Dad flanked her on the couch. My brother Mark leaned against the wall, arms crossed, playing the enforcer. "We need to talk," Mom said, her voice dripping with disappointment. Here we go, I thought. The guilt parade was about to begin. "Sarah, we're worried about you," Dad started. "You're becoming selfish. That's not who we raised you to be." Selfish. I'd given this family over $200,000 across 15 years. I'd missed vacations, delayed buying my own home, postponed having children, because there was always another family crisis that required my checkbook. "We think success has changed you," Mark added. "You used to care about family." Rachel leaned forward, tears strategically balanced in her eyes. "I don't understand why you won't help me. I've never asked for anything big before. Never asked for anything big." The delusion was staggering. "Rachel, I've given you over $40,000 in the past 5 years alone," I said calmly. "That's different," she waved dismissively. "Those were emergencies. This is my career, my future. Your future isn't my responsibility." The room erupted. "How can you say that?" Mom gasped. "She's your sister," Dad shouted. "You're being cruel," Mark accused. Rachel stood up, shaking. "Fine. You want to be selfish. Be selfish. But don't come crying to us when you're old and alone with nothing but your precious money." The mask slipped completely. This wasn't about family love or sisterly support. This was about control, about maintaining their access to my resources while giving nothing in return. You know what? I stood up, grabbing my purse. Maybe I will be alone with my money. At least money doesn't manipulate me. Sarah Elizabeth Martinez. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. You sit down right now and apologize to your sister. I turned to look at them. Really look at them. Mom's face was red with indignation. Dad looked disgusted. Mark shook his head like I was pathetic. Rachel smirked through her fake tears, already counting the money she thought she'd guilt me into giving her. These people had never seen me as anything more than a resource to exploit. I'm done, I said quietly. Done with what? Rachel laughed. You can't be done with family, Sarah. We're stuck with each other. I met her eyes. Watch me. I walked out of that house and never looked back. But that was just the beginning of their nightmare. I didn't go home that night, or the next, or the week after that. Instead, I drove to my office and made 3 phone calls that would change everything. First, to my business partner Tom, authorizing him to handle all client relations for the next month. Second, to my assistant, asking her to forward my calls to voicemail and hold all non-emergency correspondence. Third, to a realtor in Asheville, North Carolina, a place I'd visited once and loved but never had time to enjoy. Within 48 hours, I'd rented a mountain cabin with no forwarding address, no social media updates, no breadcrumbs for my family to follow. Let them wonder where their ATM went. The first week was blissful silence. No calls about Rachel's latest crisis. No guilt trips about family obligations. No one treating me like a bank account with legs. I hiked mountain trails, read entire books, cooked elaborate meals for one, remembered what it felt like to make decisions based on what I wanted, not what someone else needed from me. Meanwhile, back home, chaos was brewing. My phone turned to silent, collected increasingly frantic voicemails. Sarah, it's Mom. Call me back. We need to discuss this like adults. Sarah, this is Dad. Your mother is worried sick. Come home so we can work this out. Where the hell are you? Rachel's voice was sharp with panic. The deposit deadline is tomorrow. I need that money now. But the most revealing message came from Mark. Sarah, look, maybe we came on too strong. Rachel's freaking out about the studio thing. Just call us back, okay? This silent treatment is childish. Childish. I'd given them 2 decades of my adult life subsidizing their choices, but wanting 1 month of peace was childish. The messages grew more desperate as days passed. By the 2nd week, Mom was crying on my voicemail. Dad was threatening to call the police. Rachel was screaming about how I'd ruined her life. But the most interesting development was what I learned from my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who called to check on my house. Your family keeps coming by, she said. Your sister seemed very upset. She was yelling at your front door about some business opportunity falling through. Something about a deposit she couldn't make. Rachel's dream studio was slipping away, and for the first time in her life, I wasn't there to catch her fall. The 3rd week brought a different tone to their messages. Sarah, please. Mom whispered into the phone. Your father's having chest pains from the stress. We just need to know you're safe. Classic manipulation. Make me responsible for Dad's health now too. But the call that really caught my attention came from my cousin Linda in California. Hey Sarah, so I just got a weird call from your mom asking if I could loan Rachel money for some art studio. $25,000. I told her I didn't have that kind of cash lying around, but she seemed really desperate. Is everything okay? Everything was perfect. For the first time in years, their problems weren't automatically becoming my problems. But I wasn't done yet. Phase 2 of my disappearance was about to begin, and it would show them exactly how much they'd taken me for granted. Week 4 brought the consequences I'd been waiting to see. Linda called again, laughing. You need to hear this. Your mom called 3 more relatives asking for money for Rachel. When Uncle Jim asked what happened to the rich daughter who usually handles these things, your mom got all flustered and hung up. The family was discovering what I'd known for years. I wasn't just their safety net, I was their only net. My business partner Tom sent updates that painted a fascinating picture. Your family called the office 6 times this week. Rachel showed up yesterday demanding to know where you are. Security had to escort her out when she started screaming about family loyalty. Rachel had never worked a day in my office, never understood what I did, never appreciated the pressure I was under. But now that her meal ticket was gone, she suddenly cared about my business. The voicemails were getting uglier. Sarah, This is ridiculous. Rachel shrieked. I lost the studio because of your selfishness. The landlord gave it to someone else. Are you happy now? You've destroyed my dreams. Your dreams were never my responsibility, I thought, deleting the message. But the really interesting intelligence came from my friend Jessica, who worked at the bank where my family banked. Don't tell anyone I told you this, she whispered over the phone. But your parents came in asking about a loan. They wanted to borrow against their house, to get money for Rachel. The loan officer had to explain that they don't qualify because your dad's credit took a hit when he co-signed that car loan for your brother last year. The picture was becoming clearer. Without me as their financial backup, they were discovering their actual economic reality. Dad's credit wasn't great. Mom had never worked full-time. Mark was barely making rent on his own apartment. And Rachel had never held a job for longer than 6 months. I'd been propping up a house of cards and now it was collapsing. Week 5 brought desperation. Sarah, baby, please come home. Mom sobbed into my voicemail. Your sister is talking about moving back in with us. She can't afford her apartment anymore. Your father and I can't support all of us. We need you. There it was. The truth they'd never admitted before. They didn't just want my money. They needed it. Their lifestyle, their sense of security, their ability to indulge Rachel's whims, it all depended on me. But the call that made me smile came from Mark. Look, Sarah, I get it now, okay? Maybe we did take you for granted. Rachel's been staying on my couch for a week and it's a nightmare. She expects me to pay for her food, her gas, everything. I don't know how you did it for so long. 1 week of supporting Rachel and Mark was ready to crack. I'd been doing it for 20 years. The final straw came when Tom called with news that made me burst out laughing. Your sister tried to take out a business loan using your company as a reference. She told the bank you were her business partner and would co-sign. When they called to verify, I had to explain that not only are you not her partner, but you're currently unreachable, and she has no authorization to use your company's name. Rachel had tried to steal my reputation to fund her dreams. The audacity was breathtaking. But now came the question that would determine everything. What did I want from this situation? Revenge, reconciliation, or something else entirely? By week 6, I'd made my decision. It was time to let them find me. But on my terms. I drove back to town under cover of darkness and spent the night in my own house for the first time in over a month. It felt foreign, like visiting a museum of my former life. Family photos on the mantle showed me at graduations, holidays, celebrations, always in the background, always supporting someone else's moment. The next morning, I called Tom. Schedule a meeting with the Hartwell Industries account for Friday. Make sure it gets mentioned to anyone who asks about my schedule. Tom caught on immediately. Want me to accidentally let it slip where the meeting is? Accidentally, of course. I wasn't surprised when Jessica texted me that afternoon. Your mom was just here asking if the bank had heard from you. She looked terrible. Sarah, really terrible. Good. Maybe terrible was what it took to understand terrible. Friday afternoon, I sat in the conference room at Hartwell Industries, finishing up a consultation about their quarterly taxes. Through the glass windows, I spotted a familiar car in the parking lot. Mom's blue Honda. She was sitting behind the wheel staring at the building. She'd found me. The hunt was over. Phase 3 could begin. I took my time packing my briefcase, then walked slowly to my car. Mom scrambled out of hers the moment she saw me. Sarah. She ran across the parking lot like I might disappear again. Oh honey, thank God. She looked awful. Gray roots showing through her usually perfect brown hair. Dark circles under her eyes. Weight loss that made her clothes hang loose. Hello Mom. Where have you been? We've been so worried. She reached for me, but I stepped back. I've been thinking. Thinking about what? Sarah, your family needs you. My sister is what? Facing the consequences of her choices for the first time in her life. Mom's face crumpled. Don't be cruel. She's struggling. I've been struggling for 20 years, Mom. Where was your concern then? That's different. You're successful. You can handle things. There it was. The assumption that had governed their treatment of me my entire adult life. I was strong, so I didn't need support. I was successful, so I didn't deserve sympathy. I could handle things, so they could pile everything onto me. Can we go somewhere private? Mom asked. glancing around the parking lot. People are staring. Let them stare. Let them see the Martinez family drama playing out in public for once, instead of hidden behind closed doors while I quietly enabled everyone. We can talk at Miller's Diner, I said finally. 20 minutes later, we sat across from each other in a back booth. Mom ordered coffee with shaking hands. Your father is beside himself, she began. He thinks you hate us. I don't hate you, Mom, but I don't trust you anymore. Trust us, Sarah. We're your family. Family doesn't ambush each other in living rooms. Family doesn't call someone selfish for setting boundaries. Family doesn't try to steal business reputations to fund pipe dreams. Mom's eyes widened. What do you mean? Rachel tried to use my company as a reference for a business loan, without my permission. That's fraud, Mom. The color drained from her face. She wouldn't. She was just desperate. Desperate enough to commit crimes using my name. That's the sister you want me to fund. Mom started crying. Real tears this time, not the manipulative kind I'd grown up watching. We don't know what to do without you, she whispered. Everything is falling apart. Your father's talking about selling the house. Rachel is she's not handling this well. And Mark says he can't keep supporting her. 1 month, without me and their entire world was collapsing. Where have you been? Mom asked again. Finding out who I am when I'm not fixing everyone else's problems. And who is that? I smiled for the first time since sitting down. Someone who sleeps through the night without worrying about what crisis I'll have to solve tomorrow. Someone who makes plans without wondering which family member will need me to cancel them. Someone who's happy. Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. But the conversation was about to get much more interesting, because Rachel had just walked into the diner. Rachel spotted us immediately. Her hair was unwashed, her clothes wrinkled, and she moved with the manic energy of someone who'd been running on desperation for weeks. I knew it, she hissed, sliding into the booth next to Mom. I knew you were hiding somewhere playing your little victim games. Hello, Rachel. Don't hello, Rachel's. Me. Do you have any idea what you've put this family through? I studied my younger sister. Without her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes funded by my generosity, she looked older, harder. The entitled princess mask was gone, revealing something uglier underneath. Tell me, I said calmly, what exactly have I put you through? You disappeared. You abandoned us when I needed you most. I took a vacation. For 6 weeks? Without telling anyone? Adults don't need permission for vacations, Rachel. Her face went red. You knew I needed that money for the studio. I knew you wanted that money. There's a difference. Mom reached across the table. Girls, please. We're in public. I don't care who hears this. Rachel's voice rose. Sarah ruined my life. I lost the perfect studio space because she decided to play disappearing act. Several diners turned to stare. The teenage waitress hovering nearby looked uncomfortable. Rachel, lower your voice, Mom pleaded. But Rachel was past caring about appearances. 20 years I've watched you act all superior with your success and your money, lording it over us like you're so much better. I never lorded anything over anyone. Bullshit. Every time you helped us, you made sure we knew it was charity. Poor little Rachel needs big sister's help again. Poor Mom and Dad can't manage without successful Sarah. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Is that really how you saw it? How else was I supposed to see it? You never just gave. You always made sure we felt grateful. Made sure we knew we owed you. The accusation hung in the air like poison gas. Mom looked between us, confused. Rachel, that's not, it's exactly how it was. Rachel cut her off. Sarah's been keeping score for years. Every dollar, every favor, every time she helped us, she wrote it down in her little mental ledger book. Actually, she was right about that. I did keep track. How could I not? When someone asks you for money every month for 2 decades, you remember the amounts. So what if I kept track? I asked. Someone had to. You certainly weren't, because it's family money. It's supposed to be shared. There it was. The core of Rachel's worldview. My money was family money. My success belonged to all of them. My sacrifices were just what big sisters do. Family money? I repeated slowly. Yes, just because you got lucky with your business doesn't mean lucky. My voice cut through the diner like a blade. Lucky. Even the conversation at nearby tables stopped. Rachel, I said, standing up, I worked 70 hours a week for 5 years to build my business. I missed every family gathering, every holiday, every birthday party to meet with clients and balance books. I took out loans that risked everything I owned. I stressed myself into an ulcer at 30. That wasn't luck. That was sacrifice. So what? You think that makes you better than us? No. I think that makes it mine. The silence stretched. Mom looked like she might cry again. Rachel's mouth opened and closed like a fish. I'm not your personal bank account, I continued. I'm not responsible for funding your dreams or solving your problems or making your lives easier. I'm your sister, not your servant. We never treated you like a servant. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. In the past 5 years, you've asked me for money 47 times. You've offered to pay me back 0 times. You've asked about my problems, my stress, or my needs, exactly twice. Both times when you needed something from me. Rachel's face went white. You want to know what would have happened if I'd given you that $50,000? You'd have spent it in 6 months. The business would have failed, because you've never successfully managed anything in your life, and by Christmas you'd be asking me for more money to cover the debt. That's not. It's exactly what would have happened. Just like the pottery kiln. Just like the photography equipment. Just like the jewelry making supplies that are collecting dust in Mom's garage. Mom winced. She knew I was right. I'm done enabling your delusions, Rachel. I'm done pretending your lack of planning constitutes an emergency on my part. And I'm done feeling guilty for having boundaries. I threw a 20 on the table and stood to leave. Where are you going? Mom asked desperately. Home. My home. The one I bought with my money and my credit and my sacrifice. Sarah, wait, Rachel said. And for the first time her voice was small. Scared. What happens to us now? I turned back to look at her, my baby sister. The girl I'd protected and provided for and enabled for 2 decades. Now you figure out how to be adults. I didn't go straight home. Instead, I drove to the cemetery where my grandmother was buried. Abuela Maria had raised 6 children as a single mother, working double shifts at the textile mill to keep everyone fed and housed. She would have been disgusted by my family's entitlement. I sat on the stone bench facing her grave and called my cousin Linda. So the prodigal daughter returns. Linda laughed when she answered. I heard through the grapevine that you surfaced. Rachel found me at work today. How'd that go? About as well as you'd expect. She accused me of being controlling and superior for checks notes, keeping track of the money I've given them over the years. Jesus, some people have no shame. Linda, can I ask you something? When your brother needed help with his mortgage last year, did your family make you feel guilty for not being able to help? What? No. Tony's mortgage isn't my responsibility. I felt bad for him, sure, but guilty? Why would I feel guilty about not being able to solve someone else's financial problems? That's what normal families did. They felt sympathy, not obligation. They offered what they could without sacrificing their own security. Your family really did a number on you, didn't they? Linda continued, making you think you were responsible for everyone else's happiness. As I sat there talking to Linda, my phone started buzzing with texts. Your mother told me about the diner. We need to talk. Sarah, please don't shut us out completely. We can fix this. I love you. Come home for dinner Sunday, please. But it was Rachel's text that surprised me. I'm sorry about today. Can we try again? I'll do better. For a moment I felt the old familiar tug, the impulse to forgive and forget, to smooth things over and return to our dysfunction because family is family. Then I remembered 20 years of being taken for granted. I drove home to find Dad's truck in my driveway. He was sitting on my front porch, looking older than his 62 years. Hi Dad. Sarah, can we talk? I unlocked the door and let him follow me inside. He looked around like he was seeing the place for the first time, the art I'd bought for myself, the furniture I'd chosen, the space I'd created without consulting anyone. Nice place, he said quietly. Thanks. We sat in my living room, 2 people who'd lived in the same family for 34 years and barely knew each other. Your mother says you're angry with us. I'm disappointed, Dad. There's a difference. He rubbed his face. I don't understand what we did wrong. We raised you to help family, to be generous. You raised me to be a bank account with legs. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you called me just to see how I was doing? Not because you needed something, not because someone else in the family needed something, just to check on me. He was quiet for a long moment. We always figured you were fine. You're so capable, so strong. Strong people need support too, Dad. Capable people have bad days. Successful people worry about things. We know that. Do you? Because in 20 years not one of you has ever asked if I needed help with anything. Not once has anyone offered to support me through a difficult time. But I'm supposed to be available every time someone else has a crisis. Dad looked uncomfortable. We appreciate everything you've done. Appreciation without reciprocation isn't appreciation, it's exploitation. The word hung between us like a landmine. Sarah, that's a terrible thing to say about your family. It's a terrible thing for a family to do. We sat in silence. Outside I could hear my neighbor mowing his lawn, living his normal life with his normal problems. What do you want from us? Dad asked finally. It was the first time in my adult life that anyone in my family had asked what I wanted instead of telling me what they needed. I want to be treated like a daughter, not a resource. I want my boundaries respected. I want to stop being responsible for everyone else's poor decisions. And Rachel needs to grow up. She's 28 years old, Dad. She needs to get a real job and support herself, like every other adult in America. She's an artist. Lots of artists have day jobs. Van Gogh was a postman. Wallace Stevens sold insurance. T.S. Eliot worked at a bank. Being creative doesn't exempt you from being responsible. Dad sighed. She's always been sensitive. She's been enabled. There's a difference. My phone rang. Mom's number. Answer it, Dad said. I did, putting it on speaker. Sarah, thank God you're home. She's not doing well. She locked herself in her old room and she's talking about hurting herself. The manipulation was so predictable I almost laughed. Almost. Mom has Rachel threaten suicide. Not exactly, but she said she doesn't see the point in trying anymore. And call Dr. Peterson. Make her an appointment with a therapist. If you genuinely believe she's suicidal, call 911. But don't call me expecting me to fix this with my checkbook. Sarah, Dad hissed. No, Dad. I'm not responsible for Rachel's emotional regulation. She's using the threat of self-harm to manipulate us into giving her what she wants. That's emotional terrorism. And I won't participate. Mom was crying. She's your sister. She's a grown woman having a tantrum because she didn't get her way. Get her professional help. Set boundaries. Stop enabling her. But don't expect me to fund her recovery. I hung up. Dad stared at me. That was cold, Sarah. That was healthy, Dad. For the first time in my life, I'm prioritizing my own well-being over everyone else's drama. Family comes first. I am family too, and I come first in my own life now. But even as I said the words, I could feel the old guilt creeping in. What if Rachel really was in crisis? What if my refusal to help pushed her over the edge? Then I remembered something my therapist had told me during one of our sessions. You cannot love someone into mental health. You cannot fix someone by giving them money, and you are not responsible for other people's choices. I looked at my father. Dad, I love all of you, but I won't sacrifice my life for your comfort anymore. So that's it. You're just done with us. I'm done being taken advantage of. But if you can accept that I'm not your safety net anymore, if you can treat me like a daughter instead of a resource, then we can have a relationship, a real one. Dad stood to leave. At the door he turned back. Your mother and we never meant to hurt you. I know, but intent doesn't erase impact. After he left I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my back deck, watching the sunset. For the first time in weeks, my phone was quiet. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new attempts at manipulation, new family drama. But tonight I was free. 3 months later, my phone still had those 6 missed calls in the log. I'd listened to them exactly once, just to remind myself why I'd made the choices I had. The initial weeks after my conversation with Dad had been rough. Rachel had indeed ended up in therapy. Not because of any genuine suicidal ideation, but because Mom finally took my advice and called Dr. Peterson when Rachel's dramatics escalated. The therapist had apparently been quite direct about Rachel's patterns of manipulation and financial dependence. Mark had been the first to reach out with something approaching an actual apology. He'd called 2 weeks after the diner incident. Sarah, I've been thinking about what you said, about how we treated you. I never realized. I guess I never thought about it from your perspective. What changed your mind? Having Rachel stay with me for 3 weeks. Jesus, Sarah. I don't know how you put up with the constant demands for money, The emotional outbursts when she doesn't get her way, the way she acts like the world owes her something. I made her get a job at the coffee shop downtown just so she could contribute something to groceries. How's that going? She quit after 2 weeks, said the manager was stifling her creativity by expecting her to show up on time. I'd laughed despite myself. Sounds about right. I get it now. Why you disappeared. Why you got so fed up. We really did treat you like a personal ATM. It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was acknowledgement. It was a start. Mom had been harder. She'd called crying several times, alternating between guilt trips and genuine remorse. The breakthrough came when she finally admitted something I'd suspected for years. Your father and I never learned how to manage money properly, she said during one late-night phone call. When you started making good money, it was easier to rely on you than to figure out our own finances. We enabled Rachel because you were always there to catch her when she fell. Mom, I'm not angry that you needed help sometimes. I'm angry that you expected it always. I know, I'm trying to learn better. She was. Mom had started working part-time at the local library and taking a financial literacy class at the community college. She'd also stopped making excuses for Rachel's behavior. Dad remained the holdout. He'd nod politely when I saw him at family gatherings, but maintained that I was being unnecessarily harsh. Family forgives, he'd say whenever the topic came up. Family also respects boundaries, I'd reply. But the real test came at Christmas. Rachel had gotten a job, a real one, full-time at a marketing agency downtown. She was renting a studio apartment and actually paying her bills on time. The change was remarkable. At Christmas dinner, she pulled me aside. I owe you an apology, a real one. I waited. I've been seeing Dr. Peterson for 4 months now. She's helped me understand some things about myself, about how I've been treating people, how I've been treating you, such as, I was jealous of your success, but instead of working to create my own, I decided I was entitled to share yours. I convinced myself that you owed me support because we were family, but really I was just scared of failing on my own. It was the most self-aware thing Rachel had ever said to me. I'm proud of you for getting help. I'm proud of myself too. For the first time in my life, I'm supporting myself completely. Do you know what that feels like? I do actually. She smiled. Right. You've been doing it since you were 22. Rachel, I never wanted to control you or make you feel small. I just wanted you to be capable of taking care of yourself. I know that now. I also know I have a lot of making up to do. Not financially, she added quickly. I know that ship has sailed, but I'd like to have a sister, not just someone I call when I need money. I'd like that too. We were interrupted by Mom calling us for dessert, but something had shifted. For the first time in years, I'd had a conversation with Rachel that wasn't about what she needed from me. After dinner, as I was preparing to leave, Dad stopped me at the door. Sarah, I've been thinking about what you said, about how we treated you. And maybe you were right. Maybe we did take advantage of your generosity. It wasn't a full apology, but coming from Dad, it was significant progress. I appreciate you saying that. Your mother and I, we want to do better. We're proud of you for standing up for yourself, even if it took us a while to see it. 6 months after my disappearance, I was having dinner at a new restaurant downtown when I spotted a familiar figure at the bar. Cassandra, the woman from the competitor's script. No, wait, that was someone else's story. I spotted Rachel at the bar, celebrating something with co-workers from her marketing job. She was laughing, confident, paying for her own drinks. She saw me and waved, excusing herself to come over. Sarah, what are you doing here? Celebrating a new client contract. I got promoted to senior account coordinator, and I'm taking everyone out with my own money. She grinned. First time I've ever been able to do that. Congratulations. I'm really proud of you. Want to know the weirdest part? I'm happier now than I was when you were funding everything. Having to work for what I want makes it mean more. That conversation happened 3 months ago. Today, as I sit in my home office reviewing client files, my phone displays those same 6 missed calls from that day in June, when my family realized their ATM had disappeared. But now my phone also shows recent calls from Rachel asking for advice about her 401k, from Mom sharing recipes she wants to try, from Mark inviting me to his daughter's soccer game, and from Dad asking if I want to go fishing next weekend. Not one of those recent calls was asking for money. Do you ever wonder what would happen if you just disappeared from the people who take you for granted? Sometimes the best revenge isn't dramatic confrontation or elaborate schemes. Sometimes it's simply refusing to participate in your own exploitation. My family learned that they were stronger than they thought, more capable than they'd believed, and more resilient than I'd given them credit for. But they only discovered those qualities when they no longer had me as a safety net. Rachel's art studio dream, she's saving for it now, putting aside money every month from her job. She says it'll take 2 years to afford it, but it'll be hers completely. No guilt, no obligation, no strings attached. Mom and Dad are taking financial planning classes and building their own emergency fund. Mark has started a small business doing handyman work on weekends. They're living like adults for the first time in decades, and I'm living like myself for the first time in my life. The woman who used to lie awake worrying about everyone else's problems now sleeps through the night. The woman who used to cancel her plans for family emergencies now takes vacations without guilt. The woman who used to measure her worth by how much she could give now finds value in what she's built for herself. Those 6 missed calls were the sound of my family's panic when they realized they'd lost control over me. But they were also the beginning of all of us finding ourselves. Sometimes you have to disappear to discover who you really are. Sometimes you have to say no to find out what yes really means. And sometimes the people who claim they can't live without you discover they're stronger than they ever imagined. My name is Sarah Martinez. I'm 35 years old, and I'm no longer anyone's personal ATM. The best part, my family doesn't want me to be one anymore either. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary. Subscribe for more stories about finding your strength and taking back your life. Until next time, remember you are not responsible for other people's poor choices, but you are responsible for your own happiness.